How's it going, ladies and Bruce and Bobby Sixkilla, and welcome back to the Divine Deception. We are getting there now in Thane's storyline. We've up to Act 3. No new keys. So let's jump straight in. Polarised. As I reclined in my seat, I had to wonder how I got to this point in my life. I mean, from a third-person perspective, looking at me, it wasn't the most unreasonable position. Sorry. All I was doing was relaxing at a table in the cafeteria. A reasonably nice cafeteria too. The tables inside all had pretty comfy chairs, and there were nice decorations lining the walls. Of course, sitting in a restaurant like this in the dead of night was a little atypical. Doing so with no staff in sight? Doubly so. But you know, still not overly odd. Then if you factored in the people I was sitting with, Yi, who was passively sharpening his knife, Zouchi eagerly typing along his phone. Right, now we're entering slightly weird territory. But still manageable. Definitely manageable. It was only becoming truly bizarre when you learned the context that we were waiting to ambush the store owner when they arrived. Yeah, maybe bizarre wouldn't be the first word that comes to mind hearing that. But it fits, I'd say. It certainly wasn't normal. It really is a nice place. I mean, the meal I had last week? Mwah! Chef's kiss. That's why it kills me, you know, but that it's come to this. Why you can't fucking trust people. I always knew Milo was an asshole. Milo just has a different set of beliefs than us, different values. It's commendable in most circumstances. Unfortunately, this isn't exactly a difference that can be reconciled. But it is a shame though, it really is. Good restaurants are hard to come by, and it feels like they're shutting down every other week. Hell, feels like we're shutting them down every other week. Hey, don't put that on us. Not our fault people are so hesitant to play ball. Needless to say, between the meeting at the V Hall and now, I was unable to come up with a reasonable way to get out of this event. I considered just not showing up. After all, I had been seen at the meeting today. That should throw off for the time of death, cause of death, but it was shallow. A couple hours and a hollow appearance would be seen through pretty quickly once investigations really started. And the officers' meeting only redoubled my suspicion that if I died, Marduk at the very least would want answers. If I bailed, they'd probably come to the conclusion that the Thane they met was a fake before too long. I'd be in the same position as before. And maybe after enough time has passed, I couldn't abandon the Thane mantle. If I could successfully pull off this ruse long enough, and then vanish, that might actually throw them off for good. But a brief morning appearance? That was nothing. It's not like my free time between the meeting and now was completely useless. I was able to hack into the other burner phone. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, but I was still surprised by its contents. For one, the phone was internally labelled V. Just V. If that wasn't odd enough, the phone only had a single contact. The bastard. The only calls to this phone had never been made were to and from the bastard. And there were only a few calls, enough to count on a single hand. I couldn't get any other usable info off the phone. So it was still a pretty good big question mark to me. Part of me wanted to try calling the number, understand what I was missing about Thane. Far larger part of me realised that was a terrible, terrible idea that I should attempt under absolutely no circumstance. I mean, Jesus Christ, I was already pushing my luck an awful lot just sticking with my forced meetings. Calling a complete stranger with no context and the vague promise of maybe learning more about Thane was a risk decidedly not worth taking. You know what your problem is, Thane? Oh, Yi was talking to me now. Awesome. What? You're too much of a follower. If you want to get ahead, you need to be more than that. A leader? No, a free thinker. The way I see it, the world's survival of the smartest. Your power on the world is equal to how many good ideas you can come up with. But certainly your power in this organization. Like, look, want to know how I got to be a senior officer? We used to be having a slump with recruitment. The duets were getting a bad rap. We just had this big blowout war with the Shikome. Nobody wanted to join. And initiating people was risky. So what do you do? What do you do? There's a lot of troubled youths in Panthea. Ones that have turned to petty crime, to alcohol, to drugs. You know what these kids need in their life? The Lord? And the Zouchi sniggered. Zouchi sniggered a lot. It was annoying. Luckily for all the concerned parents of Panthea, there was an option. A church outreach program for troubled youths that would watch over their troubled teens and teach them the light. Perfect opportunity right there. Got the pastor to nix the whole God spiel and instead teach the little brats how to operate as duet members. Soon enough I created an operation where troubled kids with criminal tendencies came to us. Their parents were shipping them to us. All of a sudden we were getting an influx of members from middle class and even upper class teens. This is a previously untapped market, and with a little ingenuity, I cracked it wide open for Marduk. Wow, that's despicable. Right? That's just one of the dozen ideas I cooked up that year alone. It's through constant innovation and diligence that you improve your station in life. Don't forget that. Understood. Something tells you this lesson might go over your head. That's fine. You just do you. I was curious. This is something of a risk to my cover, but I'm curious, Yi. Remind me, how exactly did you get wrapped up in the duets? You don't remember? Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if I ever told you the full story. You haven't? Huh. Alright, I'll fill you in. Not a particularly interesting story, though. You see, in a past life, I was actually an ethics professor. I had a pretty nice job teaching at a college outside of Panthea. So I left, set up shop there, lived a nice life, and it was pretty good. For a time. Then came along this rival professor, and boy, is that guy ever the asshole. Everybody hated him. And none more so than myself. He was an offense to every belief I held. Plus, more and more rumors came out about improper conduct with some of the female students. Nothing ever stuck, and he wasn't fired, probably because of the donations he made to the place. I view the whole situation through quite different lenses now, but at the time I was younger, more idealistic. I couldn't stand for it. You need to be punished, and for some reason, for me, I jumped to murder. Yes, even before the duet life, violence was something of a second nature for me. God, murder for no reason other than moral outrage. What was I thinking? The older you get, the more you hate your younger selves. Remember that. Make sure to keep that in mind. Stay humble. So you ended up murdering this guy. Yep. I had a pretty good plan worked out for it too. This night when there were fireworks, I went into this one empty room and set up a super hard sniper trick shot. Oh yeah, I got my hands on a sniper rifle beforehand. The explosion covered the shots, and eventually I got a super tricky angle and hit the room from a complete other side of the campus. I had the stand which kept the rifle completely in place where I left it. I put up the sign calling the room where the rifle was off limits. I left the window of the target room open and replaced the wooden panels on the wall, which had bullets in them, in the dead of the night. I had a specific mark figured out, and then, and this is the genius part, I deliberately got in an accident that broke my right arm. A few days later, sent this anonymous threatening letter to the professor. Easy to push him around, get him to stand on the mark. I used my left hand to fire the rifle, and since the stand was firmly in place, I made the trick shot. I left the sniper rifle in that room, but disposed of the stand. When the ballistics report came in, the police would deduce that the shooter came from that room, but actually hitting that shot would be super difficult, and impossible for someone who broke their dominant arm, and I had the medical records to prove that. Wow, how thorough, right? I thought it was pretty clever. Unfortunately, it wasn't clever enough. I had a pretty piss-poor understanding of how murder investigations actually progressed. It was clear that the walls were starting to close in on me. I had no intent to spend the rest of my life incarcerated, so I fled back to Panthea. But I couldn't just hide out here, I needed criminal backing to escape the law. I'd always known about the duets. I went to them, explained the situation, sold my own skill set, how I could be useful. So I was initiated into their ranks and started doing work right away. And in turn, the little murder investigation problem went away. Because, you know, criminal organizations are pretty good at handling situations like that. And that's the story in full. Not particularly amazing or noble or anything, but that's life. Damn. To be honest, I didn't know how to react. I didn't really change how I felt about anything. It didn't really make me feel angry or feel sympathy. I just heard it and thought, yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, now I know. Somehow I doubt this little anecdote would be a particularly effective bullet of information. But the more ammo, the better. Haven't heard that story for a minute, Yi. Well, I don't like to revisit it that often. Kind of a bummer of a story. But if our good friend Thane wants to know, then I'm happy to tell him anytime. Besides, how else are we going to kill time? Right? Like, Jesus Christ, how long is this going to take? I don't like having to wait this long. She was right to bail. Hey, the man was supposed to return 5 minutes ago. Don't blame me. Just then the door opened. A plain-looking man walked in, leaned over and turned on the lights. He didn't notice our presence until he turned back around, and then he jumped nearly a foot into the air. Well, speak of the devil. Milo, what are you doing here? How'd you get in here? Gotta say, you don't have a bad set of locks here. Took me a solid couple of minutes to crack open the door. It's been a while since you showed your face back around here. I know you've been out on the land for a minute, trying to give us the old rope around. Guess you knew the shit you were in. How'd you know I was showing back up here tonight? We have our ways. I thought you knew that by now. Well, if you came back for as lame a reason as to get some of your belongings, then clearly not. Milo looked down. He couldn't meet Yi's gaze. I saw his eye twitch toward the door. Was he considering just trying to sprint away? He must have known he wouldn't get far. Perhaps he correctly suspected backup waiting outside. Or perhaps he was guessing that the three of us were armed. Right again. He was very clearly outmatched. The only path he had a chance of getting out of here alive was to play along for now and hope for either mercy or a lucky chance. Decent survival instincts. I couldn't help but respect it. So Milo, I think we're due a little chat. I didn't have anything to say to you. Oh? Oh, is that right? That's a real shame. I had some questions I was dying to get answers for. But of course, if you want to speed up the schedule, all the same for me. What do you want to know? I was just curious, completely for my own sake, whether or not you were aware of the basic rule of life in Panthea. You don't try to snitch on the duets. If you do, there'll be hell to pay. Go to the cops, testify against us, we make your life hell. We respect it more if you flat out attack us. But squealing, capital offence. You're aware of that, right? I can't imagine any business owner in your position could be ignorant of that. But maybe it's possible. If you weren't aware of that, well then, punishing you for a rule break you weren't even aware of is downright unfair. Look, that's why there are rules, understand? So that's why you think before you break them. Does Terry Pratchett count as a philosophy? Zouchi, how the fuck do you know that was a Terry Pratchett quote? You recommended his books. Actually, listen to my recommendation? Of course. Ye reads Terry Pratchett? He doesn't seem like he has much of a sense of humour. If I didn't, I wouldn't have asked for the recommendation. Aw, Milo. Right. So what is it, Milo? Ignorant or rebellious? Of course I fucking knew. That's how you people get away with walking over us all. Alright, so you actually knew what would happen if you squealed. Interesting. I don't know the answer I expected, honestly. Then if you're aware of the rule, why'd you call the cops? Did you actually have faith that they were going to do anything about it? Damn right I had faith in the police. Why are you acting as though that was a foolish impulse? Criminals can't just do whatever they want. There are laws. Laws, huh? Good people don't need laws to tell them to act responsibly, and bad people will find ways around the law. I'm sort of happy in a weird way that we found a guy who actually thought the police were still able to touch us in this day and age. It's like finding a four-leaf clover. But even if your accusation stuck, it wouldn't have changed things. Another wing still would have made sure the rules stood firm. But at the very least, 3 of you would be in jail. So you want to strike at us, fully aware of the retaliation you'd receive. I like it. Nostalgic. Did you guys even do it? You seem genuinely taken aback by the statement. Uh-huh. What's this? You, the one who so confidently and severely made accusations against my very character, and now no longer sure of my guilt? I thought you would have bet your life on the fact that we were the scum of the earth. What's brought on this sudden change of heart? All common sense told me it had to be your gang, but when the police came in, they proved that was impossible. Even that private investigator lady, she couldn't find a way that you could have done it. So you're ignoring your feelings towards us and actually acquiescing to the evidence? My, it takes an awful big man to do that. He paused and leaned in slightly. But for the record, we did steal your little heirloom. Milo's face was instantly awash with surprise and frustration. It's making a lovely little addition to our man cave. Quite pretty, right guys? Totally brings the room together. I can see why you liked it so much. Though liking it enough to go and waste your life like this seems like a lot. Fuck. How? How'd you get away with it? Oh, come on, man. A magician never reveals his secrets. It's way more fun to leave you in suspense. Let's just say the way we got away with it is the reason you'll never be able to touch us. Because every little brave dipshit like you, there's a dozen smart cowards that know how to bow to power. At this point, Milo just looked defeated. The chance to catch the criminals was in fact right in front of him, but they got away just by the virtue of being a bit cleverer than anyone else. I couldn't say I was a little disappointed myself. Instinctively I tried to hide that from my face until I realised that my face wasn't being observed. I didn't need to hide anything. My facial expression could root against the duets all they wanted in here. That about wraps up my questions. Oh, one more actually. Just a nice quickie for you. What? Any final words? Anything deep in your heart you need to let out? Maybe a desperate plea. A good reason to keep you around. If you earnestly ask for forgiveness, I'll actually consider it. I promise. I truly have a distaste for spilling needless blood. Milo just stood there in silence. It looked like he had something to say, but he just couldn't get it out. He opted to just stand there staring. Until finally, when it looked like he was about to say something, he shouted out, "Fuck you. Fuck your whole crew. Every single one of you deserves to die a painful death. And that day's coming. You might not realize it, but people like you never get away for long enough. Call it naive or illogical or foolish or whatever you want, but there is a thing called karma in this world. Before long, it's going to swing down and crush your whole group. And when that happens, I hope your last thoughts are a flashback to this moment. To realize I was right." He looked back at me and Zouchi, feigning surprise on his face. Wow, scary. Then very slowly, Yi took out a cigarette and a lighter out of his pocket. He lit the cigarette and took a long puff. "Guess we'll have to see. In the afterlife, let's meet up and discuss." "Alright, enough fooling around. He turned over to me. Thane, he's all yours. If you wouldn't mind, handle things back in the employee area, would you? Like I said, I don't like watching violence. Especially not when I'm having a good smoke. Wow, was I dumb? It took me this long to realize the very obvious, that you're going to be the murderer? Well, duh. That's what you do. That's what Thane does. I was here for a job. This guy broke in the code and had to be punished. Thane was the punisher. I was the punisher. With my own hands, I had to steady myself. My facial composure was shot, but even my body was beginning to shake. Not here, I couldn't unravel here. For now, the first thing to do would be to separate from the others. That would at least give me the space to breathe. Game time. I was Thane, the shadow of Panthea. I was to be feared. I nodded my head over to the employee area. You heard him? You're walking. Why should I? You're just gonna kill me, right? Fucking Milo. Work with me. Knowing Thane, a response he'd give would be, your question shouldn't be whether or not you're dying tonight. The question is decided. You should instead be wondering how long I'll make you suffer before I let you die. That did the trick. Instantly his face flushed. I almost expected to hear Zouchi snigger again, but I heard nothing from him. Wonder if I even intimidated him. If so, good on me. Wordlessly, Milo walked past the tables and over to the door leading to the aforementioned employee area. Without looking back, I followed him in. As soon as we got there, I closed the door. Didn't want Yi or Zouchi seeing or hearing anything that was about to happen. Milo just stood there in the center of the room now. He couldn't look me in the eye. Well, visor. Get on your knees. Wordlessly, Milo complied. Ever since he saw us, fear and anger had been battling out within him. So far, anger had seemingly had the edge, but my last comment probably tipped the scales back in fear's favor. I took out the pistol I had brought with me. I was wise enough to bring it to an event like this. Duet business was armed business. Now then, what did I have to say to this man? What did I want to hear? Tell me, why shouldn't I kill you? What? Give me a reason, any reason for me not to pull the trigger and blow your brains out right here and now. I'm asking you to give me something. I don't have anything to offer the duets. I'm not asking for the duets, I'm asking for myself. Please, just person to person, explain it to me. You're telling me to beg for my life. I'm asking you to convince me. Begging you, practically. I don't know what to say. Your mind's made up, right? I definitely have to die tonight. Dude, you're not making this easy for me. Oh, I'm sorry, because I care so much about making things easy for you. Specifically not murdering you. Yeah, I'd think that was in your interest to make that aspect easy for me. I know you. Huh? Not like literally, but I know who you are. You've got a lot of demons in you. You've committed a lot of sins, and I'm not going to say that you can necessarily wash them all off, but deep down, you don't want to kill me. If you did, you wouldn't be asking me to try and convince you otherwise. If you don't want to kill me and still do, it's going to stick with you. You can try to repress it, you can try to ignore it, but it'll still haunt you. You'll never be able to truly wash it away. I might just be some random old man. I might mean nothing to you, but even still, you'll see my face in your dreams from now until the day you die. The way I see it, nothing's forcing you to kill me. I pose no threat to you. Only thing killing me would accomplish would be sending a message. Apparently everybody else in Panthea has heard that message loud and clear already. So you didn't need to do this. Fuck. Why'd I ask him that? What was the point? I only served to torture myself. Maybe I was a masochist deep down. That seemed like a reasonable explanation for why I kept doing things like this. Ugh. I wasn't cut out for this. Who was? This is a job for psychopaths. And now with my back to the wall, I had to kill an innocent man. We'll just fake it, tell him to fuck off out of town and never show his face here again. A belligerent man, to be sure, one that had brought this on himself, but certainly not someone who deserved to die. Because of the stupid situation, I had to murder this guy. It's not like this would be the first person I killed. A murderer is defined as someone who murders. By that definition, I was already a murderer and nothing could change that. In for a penny, in for a pound. But this was different. Way different. Or was it? Yes, the last one was in self-defense. In a way, this was a form of self-defense. If I refused to kill him, doubtless I'd be found out and murdered. Him or me, one of us had to die tonight. If I had any chance of getting out alive, then sure. Getting him out alive, sure, I'd have an obligation to do something. In that scenario, deciding to still kill him would definitely be a sin. But as it stands, my defiance was worthless. So I should be fine to kill him, right? This wasn't about being a bad person. This was understandable. This was the only choice, right? There was absolutely no way to save him. So I could just lift up my gun and... Fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. I walked over to a nearby wall and started slamming my fist into it. It was exceedingly rare that I lashed out in rage like this, but this was a rare occurrence when it was worth it. Besides, it had been added to the side benefit of making a lot of noise. Maybe he would think I was beating him up or something. Milo just looked confused at this display. Fuck me. God damn it. Why do I have to always think things through? Why do I have to notice things? Fucking god damn it. Fine. I'd totally shoot myself in the foot for this stranger. You win, conscience. God, I was irate. I turned over to Milo and started speaking in a hushed tone. Listen here, you little shit, and you listen good. I'm only gonna say this once. Okay? I don't want an okay. I want an okay. Okay. In a moment, I'm gonna help you up, so you can scamper out through that window behind me. I turned around and pointed at the window in question. It was high and smaller, but it would have to do. After that, you're gonna scurry out of the alley and go far, far away. I don't mean in the city, I mean in the country. You don't show your face anywhere near Panthea. Not now, not 5 years from now. As far as you're concerned, you're no longer Milo. You're someone else. Pick a fun name. I've heard Bishop is in style. And you thank your fucking lucky stars that I'm the person who walked into this room to do the deed tonight instead of anybody else. You hear me? I hear you. Totally, 100% get you. I didn't get why you're doing this for me. Yeah, that makes two of us. Without another word, I pulled out my pistol. Time to put this thing to some use. I pulled the trigger and aimed it at Milo's shoulder. Before he could understand what was happening, I pulled the trigger. Whoa, that was a lot of recoil. Milo screamed incredibly loudly. He was in a lot of pain. Fuck! Ugh! Immediately I got to work. While he thrashed, I took his shirt off him. Then I began to wrap it around the wound. I was far from a doctor, so it was a pretty shoddy job. At least it did a decent enough job of keeping the blood inside his body. We'd have to get this checked out more thoroughly at a later date. That wasn't my problem. I'd already done this man enough favors. What the fuck? I thought you were letting me go. Quiet. I applied a little pressure to the wound and he shouted out again. The others need to hear you scream a little bit. And they need to hear a gunshot. There needs to be blood here. In other words, you had to be shot here tonight. Ah, damn it! It hurts like a motherfucker. Easy, calm down. Actually, don't. I've heard adrenaline helps numb things. Was this really necessary? That ungrateful tone did not mean you're questioning me. Would you have preferred I'd gone with the first option? Still, you could have given me some heads up. I failed to see how that would have made the situation any better for you. Anyway, we can't afford to waste any more time. Time to get you out of here. Milo didn't feel like arguing with that. It clearly took quite a bit of effort, but Milo made his way next to the window. I bent down in front of it and put my hands out. With a lot of effort, I boosted him up. You really tend to underestimate how much a human weighs. Turns out they weigh a fucking lot. So I managed to get him out the window. A moment later, I heard a thud. He dropped to the other side. Well, Godspeed now. The rest is out of my hands. I did my duty at least. Fucking went above the call, I'd say. I'll be in some shit later on, but I think I could buy a surprising amount of time. If I knew the duets right. It was a gamble, alright. But to save a life, I think you should be prepared to gamble. Alright then. Now to seal the deal. I lifted my pistol and aimed it at the ground. Kill shot. I holstered the pistol again. And I walked out the door. Confidence. He looked at me casually. So? How'd it go? How do you think? Hey now, no need to be snippy. Never hurts asking. Any day could be the day you make a dumb mistake. As robotic as you try to be, remember you're still flesh and blood under that mask of yours. Every human on Earth, no matter how carefully they try to avoid it, is owed a cosmic smack on the back of the head in the form of a critical mistake. I handled things. Are you happy? Can't say I'm happy. Jesus, thing, we just killed a man. What sort of devil do you think me? The murder hasn't stopped your smoke break. Yeah, well, even if someone died, what's the use of wasting a perfectly good cig? Now that would be a sin. You really gotta fucking knock it off with those cigarettes, yeah? I thought you were smarter than that. That's so. Zouchi, I don't criticize your vices. Show me the same respect. Just trying to be responsible for once. Anyways, we want to go in there and clean things up? There's no need. See, Thane? This is what I like about you. You're a professional. You know this shit already. Thank God. Zouchi, this is all about sending a message. But specifically not making it look like an accident or disappearing the body with an ocean burial. People have to know what happens when they go to the cops. The rumors about Milo trying to get arrested have already spread. When they find his violently murdered body, those rumors will also spread. Sure, this will also put police suspicion on us, but we've already handled things. There ain't a scrap of evidence that can be used to place us at the murder scene. And even if they know it was a duet bullet, for all they know, we sent some lower level grunts to do this as an initiation. In other words, there's no need to hide our handiwork. Alright, geez, I got it in the first sentence or two. No need to break into a whole lecture about it. Oh, sorry. Must be my teacher instinct snapping back into gear. Well, I, for one, loved hearing that explanation. I couldn't describe how much of a relief it was to hear that my reasoning had been spot on. It was a pretty fucking big risk, if I said so myself. If you even felt like giving the body a once-over, I'd be mincemeat. But I took a risk to save a life, and the risk paid off. So can we go now? Got a hot date waiting for me. Now, Zouchi, there's no need to make up lies. Saying you're bored is a perfectly adequate excuse. You fucker. You're gonna be rotten in hell, you know? I thought it was perfectly clear that all of us were destined there. Anyways, yeah, nothing less for us here. Let's turn off the light and get moving. We began to exit the venue. It was right at that moment, Fang entered the store. As soon as I saw him, saw what he was holding, my stomach fell 3 feet. Oh no. Fuck! I felt the ground rushing up at me. Stay still. Stay normal. Stay grounded. Look what I found scrounging around in the alley. In Fang's oversized hand, Milo was hanging by the scruff, biting his tongue from screaming out in pain. He had a nasty looking bruise over his right eye. God fucking damn it. Just my luck I had to let a goddamn moron try to run free. Well, shooting him couldn't have been helped. Couldn't have helped. Should I have told him about Fang? No, but Fang was nowhere near the alley. And if you're trying to avoid attention, you'd never run out the front where there are windows. Anyway, you'd get caught if he was loud and slow. Sounded like Milo, alright. I could feel the room closing in on me. My swing at benevolence had completely whiffed, and now I was going to have to pay up. No, I couldn't give in yet. I just have to play this carefully. Very carefully. He squinted at this arrival. First disbelief, then irritation, then back to disbelief. Huh? Good catch, Fang. That's the reason we keep you outside. Well, well, well. What the nine hells do we have here? A dead man walking? Well, you can hardly call him walking. In fact, you look pretty beat up, buddy. But noticeably not dead. Mind explaining what happened? It's the... Now, Thane, let the man speak. You can have your turn in a minute. Fuck. Milo shuddered, but remained silent. He kicked him in the stomach and he started coughing violently. How'd you get out alive, Milo? I don't like violence, but I'm pretty fucking good at it. It's not my fault. Ha! That's pretty obvious. No one would ever call someone surviving certain death that person's fault. It's also not an explanation. It was Thane. Oh, you little shit. He shot me in the arm because he wanted to make it look believable. Then he helped me out over the window. He said he wanted to help me. Help me fake my death, get out alive. I didn't have a choice. It was either this or be killed. What'd you expect from me? Your boy here said to run, I ran. That's it, that's all. That's all that happened. So please, could you tell Fang to stop holding me like this? It really hurts. Man, we should have killed him. He noticeably didn't tell Fang to let him down or make him more comfortable. Instead, he just digested those words. He just stood there, looking over Milo. Then he let out a little chuckle. Milo, dear Milo, of course you did nothing wrong in that situation. You just did what you were told. I wish you'd had that skill earlier, before it came to all this ugliness. I'm afraid I can't accommodate your request for Fang to let you go. Safety concerns and all. When were you getting away again, right? But we'll get to you in a moment. For now, he turned over to me. Oh fuck, he was pissed. He was smiling, but he was clearly super duper, not even joking, pissed. I had to stand firm. Fang was an emotionless robot. For Xiaoqi's part, he just looked between the two of us with a worried expression. He clearly wasn't expecting a fight to break out like this. Fang stood motionless. Shock at that. So Thane, you gonna tell me that was a crock of shit? You thought that you killed him, and he somehow survived the wound and escaped after you left? No. Everything he said was accurate. Oh, okay. Then this was what I just said the story you were gonna try and spin us after we found out this fuck never died. My. Thane, Shadow of Panthea, senior officer of the Duat, lets a pathetic little shit get away, refuses to kill them. Isn't that out of character? Going soft there on me, buddy? Growing a bit of a heart? No, of course you wouldn't. That's not even believable. Boy, but if that's the case, then what's happened here? Why would you not kill him? Why would you try to lie to us? Would it be possible, maybe, I don't know, have something to do with you undermining me? Thane, I thought we were friends. You're killing me here. I hate having to call your trust into question like this, but this? You better have a damn good explanation. I could see his hand drifting towards his knife. Xiaoqi and Fang were loyal to Yi. I couldn't survive this if it turned into a fight. And if things progressed how they were been going, a fight was definitely going to break out. Yi couldn't let a lie this big go unpunished. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. The real me might back down, look to escape. Maybe talk my way out. But I wasn't me. I was Thane. Thane was bold, unerring. He stood strong. I prepared myself for death several times today. If I was going out swinging. The one good way that I could see involved a risk. I had to bet on some dynamics that hadn't yet been made explicit. But that was a bet I was willing to make. Watch your tone. The fuck? Who exactly do you think you're talking to? I took a single step towards Yi. He took a step back. That told me all I needed to know. Don't think I didn't see you move your hand towards your knife. I'm too experienced a fighter to miss cues like that, Yi. You know that. What can I say? Nervous reflexes. I think after all the time I spent doing your errands, you've begun to forget what our relationship is. I'm not your man. I'm not Fang, I'm not Xiaoqi, I'm not Jia or Xia. I'm your fellow senior officer. You're not to make moves against me. And you're certainly not to make accusations before even giving me so much as a chance to speak. Hey, whoa, Thane. What's with this hostility, buddy? You know what? You're right. I was coming out a little strong there. You know how I get when I'm confused, right? Look, absolutely no offense, man. I'm sorry if it came off that way. I was just surprised. And thank Christ it was working. Honestly, that was something of a coin flip in my eyes. With all the info I'd gathered, I'd read on the situation. Thane used to be the leading senior officer, shoo-in for becoming the next head of the Duets. Then something happened and Thane became a Marduk shitlist. He was tasked with the relatively risky and exhausting mantle of acting as the shadow of Panthea. Hence the mask and the get-up and whatever. As a part of the deal, he was put under the supervision of Yi, whom Marduk possibly viewed as a more reasonable and cautious senior officer, despite some resistance on his end. Thane ultimately worked with Yi, and worked with him quite well. The two probably legitimately became somewhat close. Given Yi's dominant personality, Yi assumed the role of acting leader, and given Thane's stunted personality, he probably didn't resist too much. But beneath it all, the two were equals, though Thane might even outrank Yi. Was my theory at least. Seems like it was at least halfway correct. If you're done, I'll give you the explanation you're owed. Please. I know it's a policy to kill traitors, but when I entered this room, this one started making some interesting claims, so he didn't feel bad about ratting us out because from day one, he had ill will towards us. However, that didn't mean that he didn't fiercely stick to his values. And that got me curious. Decided it might be fun to run a little experiment. So I put on a show where I was smuggling him out. Obviously with Fang still guarding outside, and his injuries, he'd soon be caught and brought back here. I wanted to see how he reacted at this point. If he really cared so much about these values of his, surely he'd respect that I saved his life and keep my secret for me. Now I took a few steps and leaned in, putting my face right next to Milo's. But he didn't. Now did you? I guess that means he failed the test. Well, even if he passed, I probably would have had to kill him. But I was willing to give him an out. My explanation hung in the air. Had I given it stumbling over my words in a weaker position, it would have sounded like a pathetic excuse. However, if I could sell it as a beast playing with his prey, Thane, my man, I know you're fucked up, but you really gotta tone stunts like these down. I thought it earlier, but Thane was truly an easy disguise to pull off. I mean, what if Fang hadn't actually caught Milo? Weren't you banking on a lot here? I trust your man wouldn't be so utterly incompetent as to let a bleeding old fool get away. And if he did, I'd just hunt him down myself. Been a while since I got to have some fun like that. Damn. Thane, I've said this before, but you're really fucked up, you know. Throw him down, Fang. Wordlessly, Fang complied. Milo skidded to a solid couple of feet, shouting in pain the whole way. There he started to get up. However, he paused in his tracks when he looked at me to see me pointing my pistol right at his head. Immediately he got to his knees. Please, please, just give me another chance. You saved me once, you can do it again. Sorry, Milo, but that simply wasn't true. I already did my good deed. I gave you your out. It's your fault you weren't able to make the most of it. Anyways, at this point, it was truly futile to try anything else. Fang, Zhaoqi, and Yi surrounded us, all armed, all better at gun combat than me. As convincing as I'd been up until now, if I continued to avoid killing this guy for any longer, they'd see through my bluster and fill me with just as many holes as they'd put in Milo. Either two of us were dead, or one of us were. Besides, I didn't feel particularly like saving this shithead. He'd already proven himself obstinate and short-minded. Immediately turning on his saviour the moment he suffered a bit of pain was the last straw. I lifted the pistol right to Milo's forehead. I saw his eyes open wide with recognition, and then one shot and he slumped to the floor. Just like that, I'd taken another life. But I'd probably secured my own, and that was what mattered. That was what mattered. Huh. After all that, just a shot to the head. Let him off pretty easy, huh? Almost responded with a no sense playing with my food. I was this close. I only need to remember all the times that what a psychopath I was playing. I'm not in the mood anymore. That response probably worked. The more I could shift focus towards Yi's blow-up, and the more irritated Thane seemed about it, the less Yi was going to be willing to push me in the future. Part of me worried that this little confrontation was going to have long-lasting implications for my relationship with Yi, but it was kind of the only card I had available to me. Well, that sure was something. Guess our Milo problem has been sorted out, though. You can say that again. So can we go now? No. No, now Fang's fingerprints are on Milo's coat. That's evidence. Oh, good catch, Yi. That's what I'm here for. So what should we do? Luckily, I came prepared. Fang, could you hand over option D? Fang nodded and then fished around in the coat's pocket. Moments later, he pulled out a small metal container of lighter fluid. He handed it to Yi, who wasted no time pouring it all over Milo's splayed out corpse. He made sure to thoroughly cover it. Alright everyone, take a step back. It's about to get hot in here. Yi took out his lighter. He bent down and put it to the fluid. Immediately he jumped back as Milo's body lit ablaze. It took almost no time for the once recognizable human form to start to char. He was a person, and now he was unrecognizable. The fire burned so bright, but the body was so black. Hey Thane, you coming? He had put an arm on my shoulder. The others had flipped the lights off and were exiting the building. But I was still stuck there standing, watching the burning display. I didn't respond. I just stood and watched. The fire kept burning. Burning the person I killed away. For the following days, whenever I closed my eyes to fall asleep, I'd picture the burning. I could see it clearly. Add another notch to Thane's kill count, I guess. Not bad. Starting to look not bad. I wouldn't feel too bad if I were Thane. For a lot of other reasons, but also because that Milo guy was toast anyway he sliced it. I mean, a guy like that? Really think he was going to navigate waters with a cool head aimed for survival? Nah, the moment the duet set their eyes on Milo, he was toast. If Thane was really merciful, he would have just shot them in the head from the start. The faux escape attempt really was just playing with your food. But Milo bores me. Let's talk about something else. Take Yi, for instance. His little origin story. A college murder, eh? It's not just a spur-of-the-moment thing, either. An elaborate plot with fireworks and timing and preparation and everything. The sort of caper you might see Laverna looking into. And all for the sake of justice, apparently. Never took Yi for that much of a righteous guy. Which means that probably wasn't the real reason he went through so much trouble. More than likely, the man just got on his nerves. It was a personal hatred. And I can get that, right? I mean, imagine this. You spend a bunch of years with this person you cannot stand. Total asshole. They do all these things that anyone would call awful, but like, they're low-key. Could you sympathize with killing them? No. Right. Of course not. Because if you wanted to kill someone after experiencing them being a dick for a couple of seconds while you read about it, a couple more while you think about it, you're a total psycho. The question is, how would you feel if you lived with that person for years? Every day, for hours, you had to deal with them. Then would your answer change? I suspect it might. It's not the moment you directly consider murder, where the desire to kill grows. It's the quiet moments at night, with nothing in your head but hatred, where that little desire seeps in. And that can't be emulated in 2 sentences. That's the thing about stories. We can pretend that they're like putting us in someone else's shoes, but they're not. Not really. The reason it's called walking a mile in someone else's shoes, not a couple of feet. Stories merely prove a tourist-like diversion from people's everyday lives. They can get people to consider other points of view, but to truly empathize with the story, there's only one way for that to happen. You have to be drawing on real experience. Honestly, I don't think I've ever hated anyone in my life. There's people I don't like, but I think hate is a very strong emotion to jump to in any circumstance. But anyway, what do we got for the next one? We got a bronze key, but we already have the bronze key, so we will continue Thane's story in the next one. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking it out for me, and I'll see you in the next episode.